Welcome to Grief is the New Normal. I'm Dr. Heather Taylor, a licensed psychologist and grief specialist, here to help change the conversation about grief and build community and connection while we all adjust to this new normal we are living in. This podcast is for you if you are grieving or if you are supporting someone in a season of grief. I'm glad you're here. Hey friends, welcome back to Grief is the New Normal. I'm Dr. Heather Taylor, and today we're getting into a form of grief that doesn't get nearly enough airtime, the grief that comes with chronic illness. This is the grief that shows up when you get a diagnosis and suddenly your whole life shifts. Your body changes, your routines change, your identity changes. This isn't about death. And let me tell you, it is absolutely a type of grief, and not everyone gets that, which is why we're going to talk about it. So in today's episode, we'll explore the invisible grief that comes with chronic illness, what it means to mourn the life you thought you'd have, how to cope when your body feels like the enemy, and how to rewrite your narrative without toxic positivity or denial. So if you've ever thought to yourself, this is not the life I planned, or you're supporting someone who's navigating chronic health challenges, then this episode is for you. All right, let's be honest. Chronic illness is a thief. It can steal your energy. It can take your independence. It can change how you move through the world, physically, emotionally, and socially. And while everyone around you might be focused on treatments, appointments, medications, what's often missing is space for grief, because yes, you are grieving. The body that you used to have, the plans that you made before the diagnosis, the version of you that didn't have to think about symptoms 24/7, the hyper awareness about changes within your body, within your brain, with how you're engaging with others, with emotion regulation, with capacity and energy. It's all impacted, and it's all things that you are grieving some facet of. And let me be super clear here. You can be grateful for your life and grieving what it used to be. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. This is a multi-layered loss, a slow burn. It's not a one-time event. It's a repeating grief. In the same way, I work with clients who struggle with fertility, and every month it's like repeating grief over and over again. Chronic illness can also be a repeating grief event, because different aspects of grief are showing up as the disease progresses, as the ailment continues and persists. Every time something changes, every time your symptoms flare, I have some friends with some autoimmune stuff, and every time they're in a flare, it's like, it feels like it's putting them back to the starting line rather than being able to notice the progress they've made, because it creates such a setback. So every time your world gets a little smaller because of your condition, that's where grief can show up. So, story time with Heather. I have started to share about this. I shared about it in an episode with the fabulous Lauren Hunter. So I got diagnosed with postpartum cardiomyopathy after my daughter. So I got diagnosed at 11 weeks postpartum. It was January of 2021. And it was terrifying. I didn't even know that you could go into heart failure as a result of being pregnant. No idea, none. And there I was in a hospital for 5 days, dying, because I thought I was having an anxiety attack that just wouldn't go away, because I'm a therapist. So when my body's speaking to me in one language, I'm looking through that mental health lens, and it was needing to look at me through a physical health lens, and I missed it. I didn't even know to be looking for that. And it has so completely changed my life. I am still in heart failure. I still take tons of medication every day, morning and night. And even that, there are side effects from some of the medications and they impact my functionality throughout the day. And it's frustrating. It's grieving the freedom that my body had before it was tied to these medications. It's grieving the freedom I had to say yes to things without worrying about, am I going to run out of stamina? What if I start having chest pain? Is there going to be space for me to sit down and take a step back and go at a different pace? Am I going to have to pay for this over the next couple of days because I pushed too hard one day and now I am extra tired and just really struggling to bounce back, where before diagnosis, those weren't challenges that I had. I had privilege with a healthy body in that I could commit to lots of things without having to second guess how it's going to catch up with me and I'm going to have to pay for it later, or my kids are going to have to pay for it because I won't be able to play with them in the same way that I would pre-diagnosis. And it's just, there's so much untalked about, unexpressed grief there. And I filter myself often because I don't want that to be the focus or for people to think I'm playing the heart failure card or whatever, because it's like these thoughts that I have, because you can't, looking at me, you can't tell that I have an ejection fraction of 38% and that my heart isn't pumping and my hands and extremities are cold because my circulation sucks, and that I deal with chest pain off and on throughout the day. You can't see that. And I try to just keep living my life, even though I have this life-altering diagnosis. I'm aware of it. I'm not in denial. I'm trying to not let it slow me down in the things that I want to do with my life. And it's hard, and it's extra mental energy that I don't always have. And there's grief because I've had to step back from activities and experiences that I maybe would have jumped on in the past. I took a step back from some teaching because I just didn't have the energy to do in-person classes for 16 weeks. It was just too much. It was causing too big of a strain on my family. And I used to volunteer at an outdoor camp for half of my life, and I had to step down from some of those responsibilities because I just didn't have the stamina and the capacity to engage with these activities that were pillars of my identity. And there's grief there, grief that I don't get to show up in the way that I have most of my life doing the things that I love to do. I've had to make my world smaller so that I can stay in my world. And that's been really hard. And there's been seasons where I've had more capacity than others, where my ejection fraction was a little bit higher, but it's been on the decline for the last 2 years. So I have to really think through, where am I prioritizing this chronic health condition, because I want to make sure I'm here for my family, that I can be around and make it to my next birthday. And that, anyways, that could lead into another soapbox type conversation where people are like, oh, I'm getting so old. It's what a privilege that you are getting so old. I love that you're getting old. I look forward to, I turned 40 this year. I am thrilled that I get to turn 40 this year if I make it to my birthday. You don't know, there's not a guarantee. And when you have chronic illness, you don't know what comorbidities might show up, or side effects from meds, or meds stop working, or something else shows up with it. And yeah, so there's my story for today. And now I'm going to move into some anger, because what pisses me off is, and why I think we need to talk about this type of grief is because, so here's what pisses me off. Chronic illness gets dismissed all the time. And why? Why is that? Is it just because people only know how to name grief when there's death? Because if you look okay, people must assume that you're okay? Because culturally, we're taught to slap on phrases like, at least it's manageable, or it could be worse, or you're still here, right? Sure, I get that. And while those might be well-intentioned, what they do is actually minimize the very real grief of living in a body that doesn't feel like yours anymore. And they might be concerned when you get that initial diagnosis, but then concern and awareness drops off, much in the same way that grief support does after a death. People don't know what to do with it because it's not something that we hold in our mind's eye, or that we hold awareness for in the long term, because again, at least we're here. And I think it's so frustrating because it impacts the day-to-day existence. Yes, we are still here, and we're dealing with very complicated physical and emotional symptoms every day. And this grief, It can include a number of things, right? I think that's why I get so passionate about talking about non-death types of loss, because there's more than one way we experience grief. There's loss of freedom and autonomy and spontaneity. There's loss of roles that we maybe had before: parent, partner, professional. There's loss of energy, libido, capacity. There's loss of dreams or plans that we've had to shelve because now we're full-time caregivers for ourselves, managing these chronic health diagnoses. And this is not about pity at all. This is about making space for the reality of chronic illness as an ongoing form of loss. It keeps happening. It keeps impacting the day-to-day. So now, okay, what do we do with this? How do we show up for ourselves when the life we thought we were going to have just isn't happening anymore? So here are some things that I walk clients through and things I've had to remind myself of too. 1, name the grief out loud. Say it. Say, I'm grieving who I used to be. I miss the life that I imagined. It's not weakness. It's your truth. It's speaking to how you're impacted by your chronic illness. 2, stop comparing your energy to other people's or your own past. The you from before your diagnosis does not live in your current body, and that sucks. There's disappointment, frustration, anger, fear, all of those all the complicated, messy, sticky feelings, and comparing only deepens the pain. That was who you were. This is who you are now. What would it be like to try asking what is possible today with the energy and capacity that I have? I actually shared about this. It'll have been a couple weeks ago now on my stories on Instagram, just that I was grieving that I'd had this to-do list for my Saturday and took my kiddo, the youngest one, to a birthday party. And by the time we got home, I was wrecked. I was heavy with tired. I was so cold. I was having chest pain, and I had made plans to do charting after I got her to bed that night. And I didn't. I did none of it because I didn't have the capacity. And so instead of mentally beating myself up that I'm still behind on chart notes, I will always forever be behind on chart notes. But instead I asked myself, okay, what do I need tomorrow to make myself feel okay about what I'm getting done? And that was such a helpful reframe for myself. So instead of mentally beating myself up, I just focused on, okay, what do I want to prioritize tomorrow to reduce the stress? Because I need to get a couple things done, but I'm just going to prioritize what those are instead of trying to do all the things. I'm going to respect that my body needs rest, that I only have so many spoons, so much capacity, and that's just where I'm at, and it's going to be okay. 3, let's redefine what success and joy look like. So maybe success is resting when you need to, rather than celebrating that I could push through and do all the things that I used to do. What about instead celebrating that I chose rest, that I chose to read a silly romance book instead of busting out 40 chart notes? Let's redefine what that success is. Maybe joy is finding a new hobby that you can do from a relaxed posture. I have gotten much more into like crochet and embroidery instead of training for a marathon, which was something that I used to love to do. I used to be a really avid runner, and I've maintained that in some facets, but I just don't have the same capacity that I do. And so I've tried to enjoy other smaller hobbies that still bring me joy. It's just going to look different and feel different. And this doesn't mean that I've lowered my standards or that you've lowered your standards. It means building a life that works for who you are now, rather than living in the shoulda, coulda, wouldas or in a different timeline. This is the timeline that we're in now. And lastly, 4, let's get some support from people who get it. Let's find a support group, find a therapist, find a friend that can see you or knows what it's like to engage with the challenges of chronic illness, because chronic illness can be incredibly isolating. So find others who understand what you're carrying and are going to encourage you in these lifestyle changes that you're trying to make for yourself, and hold space for the grief that you're feeling. You deserve a space where you do not have to explain or justify your grief or your limitations. So you don't have to pretend that this version of life is everything that you hoped for. You can love parts of it and mourn what's missing, what you wish it could have been. All right. So final thoughts for today. Chronic illness comes with real grief, and you are allowed to feel that. Your pain is valid, even if others don't see it, even if others don't know how to make space for it. Really important here, you are not broken, you are adapting. And that's incredibly hard and incredibly brave. You are making choices for you that are a result from a choice that you didn't make for yourself. You didn't choose to get a chronic illness. You did not choose that. It happened, and you are choosing to adapt and continue to move forward. And that's hard and brave to make those choices. And lastly, your identity is not lost. It's evolving. Who you are is evolving. We are not done until we're done. So you are adjusting, evolving to how life is going to look in this new space, in this new normal. So here's your gentle challenge for this week. Say the grief out loud, even if it's just to yourself. You don't have to share it in your stories. You don't have to make a post or a reel about it. You don't have to announce it at a school meeting. Just say it out loud, even if it's just to yourself. I am sad today. I am sad that I do not have the capacity that I used to. I don't fix it. I don't rescue it. I'm just going to give myself permission to say it. And give yourself permission to stop chasing who you were, and let's work on being curious about who you are now, because you're incredible. Who you are now is incredible. You are adjusting and evolving to the new normal that you're in. And Tim Gunn says from Project 1 Week, you're making it work. So if this episode spoke to you, please share it, please post it, please send it to someone who needs to hear that chronic illness grief is real and deserves to take up space. So remember to be kind to yourself today, and take care. We'll see you next time. That's it for today's episode of Grief is the New Normal. If this conversation resonated with you, or you think it might benefit someone else, please share it. Sharing can open doors to healing, understanding, and normalizing these griefy conversations. If you're craving deeper insights or ongoing support, consider signing up for the Grief Gap newsletter. It's packed with resources, tips, and personal stories to help you navigate your grief journey. Visit the website www.griefisthenewnormal.com to subscribe. For those who prefer a more personal touch to their healing process, check out my grief journal, Authentically Unapologetic. It's designed to help you explore your grief on your own terms, with prompts and exercises that encourage reflection and growth. I'm Dr. Heather Taylor, and I look forward to our next meaningful conversation. Our soothing tunes are provided by the Datacorns. If you're interested in sharing your story, collaborating, or learning more, please email me at hello@griefisthenewnormal.com. You can also stream the episodes on YouTube for more engaging content. Until next time, keep exploring your grief with intention and support, remembering you don't have to do this alone.